Hi, my name is Elizabeth Milligan, and I'm here for the assessment review for this class. We are looking at an evaluation that was completed on a first grade child last school year. The tests that I am looking at are the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children 5th edition, the Wechsler Individual Achievement Test 3rd edition, the Goldman-Fristow 3rd edition, and the Connors Rating Scale 3rd edition. The Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children 5th edition, commonly known as the WISC-5, is what we typically use in our school district for IQ test. Looking at the reliability, the primary index scores range from 0.88 to 0.93. Retest validity or reliability, retest reliability would be 95%. So if we were to give this test again, we would expect those scores to fall within that range that we indicate on the confidence interval of the score report that we put in our report. So I'm going to look at that test first. This particular child ended up with a full scale score of 72, which does indicate that his cognitive functioning is within the very low range. However, he does have some other parts of his cognitive ability, such as processing speed, which he scored an 89 on, which is in that low average. So that's his highest score. So he has a pretty big then his lowest score was a 59 on working memory. So he has a pretty big jump in between his different composite scales of the WISC-5, which we do see a lot of times with the kid that has been identified as other health impaired based on ADHD, which this particular child is what he qualified for. Also looking at the Wechsler Individual Achievement Test 3. The reliability on that is 0.87 to 96, which does indicate that it is very good to excellent. The validity of test is very consistent. The subtests are effective in identifying large percentages of individuals with disability. Again, we look at that reliability of 95%, so that if we were to give this test again, we would expect those scores to fall within the range that we have listed on our confidence interval in our report. So let me look at the Wechsler Individual Achievement Test. Hold on just one second. I need to go back out. Sorry about that. On this particular report, for the YH3, which is what this test is commonly known as, this child received some scores, some pretty different scores as well. On word reading, this child scored 74, which just means that he is functioning below average. Average is anything that falls between 85 and 115. So he is falling in that below average range of being able to just read sight words. Reading comprehension, where he's given some different paragraphs and things to read and then answer questions on, he scored a 73, which is also in that below average range. Oral reading fluency, how fluently he reads a passage within a certain amount of time, he scored a 65, again also in that below average. Numerical operations, this child has some definite strengths in math, and so their numerical operations or their math calculation score was a 95, which does fall in that average range, and math problem solving was a 94, the numerical operations was a 95 and math problem solving was a 94. So both of those fall within the average range and does indicate to us that this particular student has strengths in the area of math. Sentence composition, this student is just a first grader, so they only did the sentence composition part of this test for written expression. and they scored a 75, which does fall within that below average range. Then the student also had a listening comprehension score of 81, which does fall in that below average range, and an oral expression score of 75, which does fall in that below average range. So this particular student does have definite strengths in the area of math and weaknesses in all the other areas. All right, then looking at, gotta go back again. Looking at the Goldman-Fristow. So this child had some speech concerns, so we use the Goldman-Fristow. And this particular test looks at different speech errors, and so this child had substitutions in initial positions for W, in the medial position for B, and in the final position for S. I know our speech pathologists really like this test because it does break down all the different positions of where the student had a speech concern, and then it gives them some really good goal information for writing goals. The last thing I want to talk about is the Conners, which we use for social emotional because we were looking at a child to see if he had OHI for ADHD. And so we use the Conners 3, and we have, when we do this, we have the parent complete a Conners 3, and we have a teacher complete the Conners 3. So looking at his scores, he had almost everything very elevated. So his inattention was in the very elevated range. Hyperactivity and impulsivity were in the